Welcome to Tripod, our video podcast series in association with the Seva Group. I'm Martin Moodie.
I'm Roger Jackson.
Roger, great to be with you again. We've got a great guest coming along in a few moments, but I thought, as usual, we'd start by chatting about what's happening in the industry. What's been on your mind lately?
I think, I saw one of our, industry colleagues referencing this on LinkedIn this week, and I commented on it actually. I think one of the things I was thinking around is there's a lot of trade shows. I'm obviously part of some of those, member of TFWA, and also I'm on the board of Medfa. So I'm not, dissolving myself out of that. But I think there's just too much now. I think there's just too many. And given where the industry is at the moment, I think it's fair to say the industry is in a period of reflection, and with there's some declines and there's some lack of growth at the moment. I think the brand owners, the retailers, the distributors, the service providers in the industry, I think everyone's suffering a little bit at the moment. And I think, as an entrepreneur myself, Martin, like you, I think you always feel you need to be at these things. But it's getting to the point now where I counted that there was 13 this year. That's more than one a month. Now, obviously, some of those are on different scales of level, but I had a quick count up and there was 13. So that's more than one a month. Now, obviously, some of them are regional, some of them are quite specific, i.e. cruise or, airline. But yeah, 13. And I just think, given the fact that trade shows and trade organizations are there to support the industry, I just feel it's got a little bit too much. And I think we need to really reflect on that and work out what's the best thing for the industry. I think there's a huge role for them. I think there's a huge role. They've been very successful for my business in the past, and I'm sure will be for the future. And I think it's really important to bring us all together. But I just feel it's a bit overkill at the moment. So yeah, that's my thought, and it's one that I think is being shared on social media, on LinkedIn, quite a bit from our industry colleagues. And secondly, I think we're going to have to look at some of the locations as well, because costs are becoming prohibitive. And I think we need to make sure that we're offering our members and our industry colleagues, good value as well. I think we've got to look at that.
I think there's clearly a place for the global event. Historically, that's been Cannes. I probably won't be thanked for it, but I do believe the time has come to review that. Historically, Dubai, which is a great East meets West location, wasn't suitable because being where it is in the world, it excluded certain retailers, notably those from Israel. Well, that problem does not exist anymore. And therefore, I wonder if TFWA could look at a fantastic location like Dubai going forward. I saw a lot on LinkedIn about Singapore not being a suitable venue. I wouldn't concur with that. I think Singapore is the right venue for the Asia Pacific show. Everything works. It's a well-proven formula there in Singapore. The problem is ensuring that you get sufficient buyers there to make the cost of exhibiting worthwhile, and that is becoming a stretch for all the reasons you just outlined so well. And once you start getting multiple other shows in the region or anywhere, then dilution happens because buyers might go to one and they don't get the other. You need that weight of retailers, buyers to make that, that buyer-seller relationship that underpins any successful exhibition really function. So I think that's where TFWA has to focus obsessively, just maximizing those buyer numbers. But food for thought, and I think the debate needs to go on. And you can feel the noise level raising because we are living in parlous times. Well, it's almost time to welcome our special guest, an individual who I met in Singapore for the first time a few weeks ago, Roger. But before we bring that guest in, I believe we might have a very, very special guest indeed. Would you like to bring her in?
I will do. We have got another special guest, the first time, Martin, where we've had two guests on the show. So let me bring her in.
I wonder who the special guest is. My goodness me. That
So we're
looks
on
like
the,
the famous Isabella Jackson. Is that right?
Yeah.
so it's Eid in the Middle East today. So we're on public holiday, aren't we?
Yeah.
And Isabella wanted to join us on Tripod, and she wanted to say hello to everyone.
Hello.
Very good, Isabella. I might have to get you to replace your father as the co-host of Tripod because you are absolutely delightful. I met Isabella in Hong Kong when you came over to see me, and you went to Disneyland. Isabella, that's right, isn't it? How did you have a good time here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think your dad and mum might be taking you back to Disneyland. Is that right?
Yeah.
Isabella, seeming you're being seen by all our guests, how old are you now?
I'm 8.
8 years old. Gosh, wow. You've grown much taller since I saw you last year. You're growing fast. She's a great kid. Roger, you and Natalie must be very proud to have a beautiful daughter like this.
We are. Do you want to say we're going to bring the next guest in now?
We're going to bring the next guest in.
Let's do
We
it.
sure are. Thank you. Thank you so much, Isabella. You have a future on TV ahead of you, I can assure you. Let's bring our next guest in. So this episode's special guest on Tripod is Nerissa Polke, a dynamic Singapore-based businesswoman and founder of organic beauty brand LiHT Organics, which made its travel retail debut at the recent TFWA Asia Pacific exhibition in Singapore, and which I think ranks as one of the more compelling market entries of recent time for reasons we will come to in a moment. Now, the LiHT in LiHT Organics is an acronym for Living in Her Time, and that is precisely what Nerissa has been doing since launching the brand in 2019. More on that less than auspicious timing, no doubt, in a moment. Now, all entrepreneurial stories involve a lot of courage, as well as a fair measure of blood, sweat, and tears. And in that respect, there's a fascinating and I think poignant backstory to this brand that makes its growing success all the more commendable. Nerissa, welcome to Tripod.
Thank you so much, Martin. And thank you for the beautiful words and the beautiful introduction of the brand. I think no one could have done it better than you.
Well, I was so impressed by you and by the brand when I met you in Singapore, Nerissa, that I just knew this would be a great episode of Tripod. We've had some brilliant guests down the years, and it's really good to welcome you. So I'm going to pass over to Roger. Roger and I have been doing Tripod for a few years now, Nerissa, and it's a really great way to get up close and personal with industry figures. So Roger, with no further ado, over to you.
Hey, Nerissa.
Hey, Roger. Thanks for having me here. It's been such an honor.
No, thank you for coming on. We always start off in the same place, which is about your early days, where you were born, raised, and how you've ended up where you are today. So can you take us back to those days and let us know where it all started for you?
How much time have you got?
How much you need?
Such an important question. I think that that's also one of the questions I would usually meet, important people that I've come across in my life, because I do believe that, our early days really shape us as a person. So I was born in sunny Singapore, raised over here as well, been here pretty much most of my life until I started traveling when I entered the workforce. I was born into a very traditional Chinese family, beautiful culture of the deep respect and the generations of social conditioning, as you would imagine. And I was a little bit of a black sheep of the family. My brother was like the model Chinese child who was, very obedient and, very subservient, but I was not. And I think it was a little bit of a shock to my mom, who really wanted a daughter who could just listen and not question anything, which I was not. I'm not sure if you guys have seen the meme before of this mom that brings her little tree to school, and in the classroom, it was a classroom full of pencils. Have you seen that?
Oh,
It's like how
okay.
you're going through the system and you become a pencil, right? Like I was so not a pencil. So that was how I started in my early days. Being kind of rebellious, my mom enrolled me into a convent school, which I told her has been the best thing she's ever done for me in my life. So it had the right boundaries of propriety, but it also taught us a lot of like critical thinking and being very vocal, which is very different, from the culture of most Singaporeans, just because, it actually trained us to be a little bit louder. And that's one of the reasons why whenever I meet people these days, they look at me and they're like, you look like you come from a girls' school, which I take as a compliment. Yeah. So that was that. And then I was an average student, and I started off with like, going to uni and everything, but I was like kind of a scrape through kind of child, like I just made it in college, just made it into uni. I was not like a straight A student, but I kind of did enough just to get like where I needed to go. Then I ended up in the financial industry. I was doing it for about 20 years. And I was doing it both, right? Like when I started LiHT Organics, I was still in the industry, but I started off, thinking it was just going to be a side hustle. It's just going to be something that I wanted to do for myself, just to get the skincare that I wanted, the makeup that I wanted. I wasn't expecting it to be the international business that it is today. So I did that transition midway, but it was totally different. Like never did beauty. I never did finance in school. Like I always ended up in places that I was not planning to be at. So I was like a sociology major, which basically meant I could become a teacher. Then I didn't. So I ended up in the finance industry. Then I ended up in beauty, which is again completely unrelated. So it's all a series of beautiful coincidences.
Yeah, interesting. You're almost an accidental entrepreneur.
I'm definitely
There's a few of those, and I would class myself as one. I always thought of myself working for a corporate, and then suddenly I wasn't. And it's amazing how that lights a fire, and off you go. So you've made this move into running your own business. It is a deeply personal and I think courageous narrative, Nerissa. You told us about it in Singapore. And I'd like you, if you will, to touch on why LiHT Organics, the qualities and values that underpin it, and how they are very personal to you.
Mhm.
Just talk us through that, if you will.
So when I first started working in my 20s, I started getting this really bad acne outbreak, and it was purely hormonal because I never had it as a teenager. And my self-esteem was completely bashed out because I remember like my clients would stare at me weird, and my ex-boss would be like, "Why is your face like that?" Like he literally would say that to me. So
Wow.
during that time, I was on like a lot of medications. So I was on Orotin and I was on the steroid injections, and I had to go through it like every month. So I had to spend $100 for every pimple injection because my pimples were so big that it wouldn't even go down. Like I couldn't even squeeze it. So it was pretty extreme. And those medications were really harsh on my body as well because it was causing problems like depression. It was causing problems like, drying up like all the organs in my body and on my skin. But it did kind of repress it a little bit. So it helped it, but it didn't really cure it. And after about 3.5 years on the meds, I just told myself, this is like, I can't be on this forever. So I went through a deep dive research to find an alternative cure for myself. But what I found instead were the causes. And that was actually all the chemicals that was in my skincare and my daily care products. So I decided to do a big detox of my skincare, cleared it all out, went full organic, and my skin actually cleared up in 3 months. So I was like, there is something here. I've got the skincare, but I couldn't find any makeup that I liked that was really authentic because there were a lot of products out there that claimed to be organic, but still contain a lot of the chemicals that, I knew I needed to avoid. So then I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna make it myself because there's no other choice. I got so nerdy on the ingredients that I actually knew what everything was, even though I had no chemical engineering background. So I went into this whole journey, this rabbit hole of like looking for a factory and building a brand. And it was just something really small. It was like a really small dream. I just wanted to use it myself, and I just wanted my friends to be able to have access to it. So I started off with this like small online website thing, just to list it. And then I ended up with a contract for 300 store openings in the Middle East 3 months later. And basically the rest was history. But then we thought it was history, but it's not, which would probably be Martin's next question about what happened. Yeah, so that's the story behind LiHT. And also, just to share with you, the Living in Her Time, the name was actually born out of an inspiration I got standing outside a bathroom in Mexico. The bathrooms are great for inspiration. And one day when I was standing outside there, I was like, LiHT needs to stand for something. And it just came to me. It's like living in her time, because people need to be present, right? And where is the best place to be present? In the bathroom. So I just felt it was very apt. And I thought that, it's so relevant in today's society where the world is, we're just pulled in all kinds of different directions. It's such a hectic place. We could be at one place, but we're thinking about something else. And this is more often than not the case, where people are not actually present. We're not present where we are. We're not present with the other people we're with. And it's really tragic because, life is really short and it's really fragile. And it's so important to be in the moment. And I feel like that's something that is so understated these days.
Nerissa, Martin obviously sent the story and obviously told me he'd obviously met you in Singapore as well. And I obviously did a little bit of research. So you went on Shark Tank.
Yeah, I did.
With your co-founder and your partner. And I saw that you ate the products and you can actually eat them.
Because 60% of what we put into our skin gets absorbed into our body, I wanted to make sure it was safe enough to eat. So to show you how safe our products really are, my dear husband is going to eat some of our foundation. You sharks are welcome to try it if you dare.
It's strange.
It's not very tasty, don't.
It's strange what husbands have to go through.
I had to ask, what you're gonna have to, it's obviously not it's obviously something real. How does that even work? I didn't even think that'd be even possible.
So I wanted to make sure that all the ingredients in our products were, FDA approved, and they were actually edible, so-called. I wouldn't recommend it. Please don't go around eating makeup, you really shouldn't. But I wanted to make sure that it was safe enough to eat, because whatever you put on your skin gets absorbed into your body. So to me, it's logical. If I'm going to put something on my skin, I must be able to eat it because it's going to end up in there somehow. So that was actually the basis and the criteria for the formulations of the products, because I didn't want to worry about that. It's so scary what goes into products these days. And I really cringe when I read the ingredients list of a lot of stuff. And I just really wanted to make sure that we're not like that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, you can try it as long as you're not allergic to aloe vera, because it's mostly made of aloe vera.
I'm not. No, but when I finally meet you, I will. We'll do a video. You launched in 2019, which isn't that dissimilar to myself actually. I had a year before, obviously, the global health crisis that we all had. So I guess that was very difficult for you, and I'm sure it was you launched just on the eve of obviously of COVID. How did that impact the business and the makeup sector? And talk me through how you got through that, because I'm sure it wasn't easy.
Exactly. I think that our journey has been such a roller coaster. We launched in March 2019. We landed the contract for 300 store launches in June, right? And then we started preparing for it, and we got our first stores up in December. So we started off with 15 stores, and we're growing at 50% per month, and we ended up with 27 by February 2020. And you know what? Things would have actually have been a lot better if I hadn't had the contract. You know what I mean? I thought I was on a roll. I was like, oh my God, this is great. We just launched and we've got this big deal. And, when the pandemic happened, I was just like, okay, that was scary as hell. Why would this happen right after? And I remember I had an investor at the time as well that when we were raising for, to fulfill the inventory and to do the store build-ups. And he actually asked me, what do you think can go wrong? I give you this money, what do you think can go wrong? And I was like, I can't think of any, because we've got a contract that is non-refundable, non-exchangeable. We've got the contract paid out in cash. They're going to give us the money before they get the stock. So I'm just I can't really think of what might go wrong, but I would never in, my entire life imagine that there will be a global pandemic. I don't think any of us would have ever imagined that. So it was really scary. And the worst part about it was that it just went on forever and had no inkling of when it was going to end. It's like,
Yeah.
I was just like pushing myself through. I'm just like, okay, we can get through this. And then we waited for days and weeks and months and years, and it was still ongoing. And I was like, what do we do now? You're so deep in the rabbit hole that you couldn't even turn back. But I just felt like I needed to persevere. And I meditate a lot. So I've gotten a lot of insights in my meditation that really helped me get it through. And it was literally the thing that gave me strength to kind of like pull through the whole thing. And now when I look back, I'm really grateful for the whole experience, just because it's literally like having 10 years of business lessons crammed into 3. It's like a fast track. And, I could have just done like what most businesses have done, to close it down at that time and maybe restart it again when everything was over. But I didn't. And on hindsight, I'm actually really glad I didn't either, because I would just imagine how many entrepreneurs were so affected and so traumatized by the whole event that maybe they won't even do it anymore, and it was completely understandable, right? Like, and who knows, that could have been me, and I wouldn't be here with you guys today.
No, it really resonates. I'm sure it resonates to a lot of people who listen as well. That time was, I think some businesses really prospered and learned and came out of it, and unfortunately a lot didn't as well. So I guess, how did things fare after the pandemic? I'm sure, that's when the success started. And also I hear you exhibited at the Singapore show in an amazing way. So how does travel retail figure in those plans?
I think it was incredible. I mean, I think that after COVID, it definitely took, a lot of businesses a few years to recover from it, especially the people who started right before. If you started during, you'll be in a good position. But if you started right before, that's where you have a big hole to fill, essentially, in every aspect. And the TFWA was the first kind of major show that we did after the pandemic, I would say, on a global level. And it was really great. I mean, one of the things that I really enjoyed most about it was meeting the community. So many people are so nice, like Martin. And it just made me feel like it was a bit of a family, which is so wonderful in the business space, because a lot of entrepreneurs would say that, the journey is so lonely. And I didn't feel that with the people I met at TFWA. It was just really nice because, I could really see friendships being built that were aligned in values and in business. And these would always make the great partnerships. So really looking forward to that. I mean, I'm also really glad that we did travel retail, just because I've been on trips and I had forgotten my stuff and I couldn't find anything that I could use because I had such sensitive skin. So I remember I would go into the duty-free shops, and even on the planes, and I'm like, okay, I need to buy like a foundation because I forgot my makeup pouch, and I couldn't find anything that I could actually use. So I was wondering, where is all the clean beauty stuff in travel retail? And I've been told that LiHT Organics is the first organic makeup brand to launch in travel retail, which is really exciting for us. And we've gotten so much good traction from it. We've gotten really warm responses and really good leads to follow up with, which is what we're doing right now. So I hope to see everyone everywhere soon.
Well, good stuff. And by the way, Roger, I was at the Singapore show, as I mentioned, and somebody did eat some of Nerissa's product. A young man called Ben Holland, I think, Nerissa, who a very nice young man who works for Essential Communications, a PR agency. So he proved that this was an edible as well as very ethical product. You and I'll have to try it, mate.
Yeah, well, we got the Cannes trade show, Nerissa, which I'm sure you know is the number one. Yeah, so let's do a video.
Let's do that.
Me and Martin will eat some, Martin.
There we go. Nerissa, obviously you're off to now a good start after a false start with the pandemic. What are the longer term plans for LiHT Organics?
So the longer term big mission is to be the leading organic makeup brand globally, just because that space is not yet claimed. I mean, at this point, there isn't really a Chanel, the Bobbi Brown of the organic makeup world. And we really want to take that spot just because we're so passionate about what we do. And we want LiHT to be in everyone's makeup pouch. We want it to, inspire a lifestyle that could change the world, because, it's always about the conscious collective. So that's for the brand. But my ultimate mission in life is basically to build an animal foundation. So to me, LiHT is a platform, not just, for the resources to be able to do that, but to also educate people so that there's continuity in this legacy that we want to create. I feel that there's so much in this world that needs to be done, and everyone just baby steps from everybody, and that's going to make a really, really big difference as well. Our mission is one of love for self, humanity, and the planet, and that's basically what we do as our compass in every step of the business.
Well, it's a great mission, and I suspect, knowing you just a little, it's an all-consuming mission. But let's presume you don't work 24 hours a day. What do you do when you're not working? What are your interests in life?
Well, I love traveling. That's why travel retail is the perfect spot for me, because I get to mix business with pleasure. I like exploring new places. I like connecting with the places, and from a day-to-day, I just like doing simple things. I like cooking, I like baking, I like just sitting on my massage chair with my cat, and while he purrs on me and basically salivates all over me while we are watching Netflix. So little simple things like that. And I feel like a lot of times we forget to connect with the loved ones, our pets, our partners, our kids. And I just like watching them, So sometimes during weekends, like what I like to do is just kind of like sit and journal and have my dog on the floor beside me with my cat beside me on the table. And it's just nice to just be in that presence. And like, I feel like you don't have to kind of go all the time. Like sometimes you can just stay still for a little bit.
And Nerissa, I'm sure a lot of people have played a big role in both personal and your career, and obviously your business. Who would you say has been the key influence or the biggest inspiration in your journey?
Biggest inspiration, I would say, is my husband. He has been my biggest cheerleader. I've known him for more than a decade, and we started off as friends. He was one of the first investors. He's watched me build the company from nothing, and he's always been my biggest cheerleader, just because there are times where I've lost faith in myself, especially in COVID. And, I'm just like, oh my God, I can't move anymore. And he just drags me along. Like, he has more faith in me than I do myself. And we wouldn't be here without him. And he's been doing that since he was just a friend, So it's really sweet. And it's really good to have that kind of a support group. And nothing beats a partner who's actually supportive in what we do, right? I'm sure as fellow entrepreneurs, you agree with that. So that's my husband. I'm also really grateful for my son, because he teaches me to be simple and to find joy in the littlest things, which is sometimes so difficult as adults, because there's always all these wants and all these things that we're chasing, and sometimes it's not about all of that. It's about the really simple things in life. And his joy is so infectious, like over the little things. So every time I look at him, I feel like I'm learning something new, just because he just brings me back, and he just grounds me. And the third person I would say is Vishen Lakhiani. So he is the founder of Mind Valley. I read his book, The Buddha and the Badass, and I feel like I could really resonate with it, just because I've always believed that you don't have to build a successful business by being an asshole, because that was what we used to be taught, right? We're like, oh, you gotta be scheming, and you gotta like not let people like take advantage of you, and all these hard stuff, which I'm like, I don't think that's really needed. Like, you can be a good person and you can treat people fairly without having to compromise anything. So that was what I really felt was a really good compass for me in entrepreneurship and in leadership. So yeah, I admire him a lot.
Amazing.
Well, I think it set you up extremely well for what you're now living the life of the entrepreneur, Nerissa, and doing it very well. Well, we've heard a great deal of fascinating information about that story. Now we're going to have a bit of fun. We're going to fly you on our distinctly low-cost carrier, I'm afraid, Nerissa, called Tripod Airlines. We're going to fly you to our resident desert island. It has duty-free status, and we're going to give you a few creature comforts to while away your time. So I'm going to kick things off. We'll give you one piece of reading, and we will manage to get satellite TV in there so you can watch a film as well. So what's your reading and what's your movie?
Cool. So exciting. So my book you were suggesting, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So reading wise, I actually like books that are a little bit deeper. So one of my favorite books is Tuesdays with Morrie. It's a really old book, but it's such a great reminder of what's truly important in life. And I think sometimes it's important to kind of bring back that, you know, amidst the craziness of our everyday lives. And one of the lines that I've heard one of my friends say to me before was that sometimes in life we have to earn more than just money. And I so believe in that because, you know, like we get caught up with chasing stuff all the time that we don't realize that everything else actually needs to be earned, and it's not something that's just given, and it's not something that's just expected. My favorite film of choice on holidays is The Devil Wears Prada because, you know, fashion and ferocity never goes out of style. I could keep watching that fashion show over and over again. As much as I also like thought-provoking movies, sometimes I like to leave my brain at the door. So rom-coms is always a go-to for me whenever I'm, you know, trying to relax and going on holidays because I really don't need to take my brain along sometimes.
What item of duty-free would you also take on the island, other than your own brand, of course? And the great thing with your brand as well, Nerissa, is you can actually eat it as well. So
Yes, I'm hungry.
yeah, you've got both. But what other item would you buy from duty-free and bring with you?
A ridiculously oversized pair of sunglasses, just because, you know, when you're on holiday, you can't go wrong with fashion. You could literally get away with it wearing anything. I have this pair of glasses that basically one of my friends told me made me look like a wasp. Yeah, but I'm like, it's functional. It protects your eyes and it protects your skin. Why not?
There you go.
Yeah.
And along with your oversized pair of sunglasses, what music would you take? Can be a song, an album. What would you bring along?
A 90s hip hop compilation.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can relate to it. I'm the same age. I feel like I would be. I love Nelly and Usher and to groove to that. So just really sad that they don't make music like that anymore.
Very true.
Yeah.
And along with your music, your sunglasses, and the Devil Wears Prada, we're also going to arrange a very special desert island dinner for you. So we're going to fly in 3 guests for you. Can be historical or living. So who would the 3 be and why?
So first would be Cleopatra. So we can talk about eyeliner and empires because she clearly knows them both. Then of course Oprah, because why would we not have Oprah? She would at least be a good dinner conversationalist, and I would love to hear her story. And the third one would be Shawn Mendes. Now, at the risk of sounding like an overage groupie, I really want to know how he balances the international stardom with all the firm groundedness that he has and all his humanitarian missions. I think he is what I want my son to be like when he grows up, character-wise.
And just one extra question for me. If you could have one celebrity or famous person use your products that isn't at the moment, who would you like?
Oh, that's a hard one. I want them all. I really like Natalie Portman. Yeah, I really like her because I feel like she embodies a lot of substance along with beauty. She's not just a pretty face. She's actually super smart. And I feel like there's a lot more to her than what we see on screen. So I'm really intrigued by her.
So we need to get some product to Natalie Portman.
We should get to her. Beyonce is cool too because she is Queen Bee. So
sounds good.
And we've got a shade.
There we go. You never know. Natalie might be watching. Tripod, so this could be a big break. Well, Nerissa, you've been a terrific sport, both in talking about your professional life and your personal life and being on the desert island with us. So to reward you now, we're going to pop you back onto Tripod Airways and fly you to any destination in the world, the one that's top of your bucket list. Tell us where we're going and why.
Definitely the pyramids in Egypt, but without the people. And I know you guys can wing that, but I want to go into the pyramids where there's no one and just sit in there and bask in that energy. That would be really amazing.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, we will do that.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Bean did it a few weeks ago where him and his friends visited it with no one there, and they opened up all of the the closed off places, and looked really cool.
Oh, it's amazing. It's crazy because they get so many opportunities to go to Egypt, but somehow the stars just didn't align and I just never went to them. And they were like free trips too. It's like I could have gone there, but for some reason the timing just wasn't aligning. So it gets too crowded then.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, you will have never been to somewhere like Egypt on an aeroplane such as ours, Nerissa, I can promise you. But we will get you there safely. We get all our guests to their destination. But thanks for being at our destination on Tripod. You've been a fantastic guest. Like I said, I was impressed by what I saw of your product and of you in the Singapore show. I think you're bound for very, very good times in travel, retail, and domestic markets. You've got the energy, you've got the product, and as we've heard today, Roger, Nerissa's also got important values. So thanks for being on the show. We wish you well with LiHT Organics, and any support we can give you, count on us.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Martin.
So, Roger, Nerissa Polke, what an interesting young woman, dynamite, eh?
Yeah, she's absolutely brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. I love the idea of it. In a world where everything seems to be manufactured and artificial, to see something so genuine like that, and also to have an entrepreneur that, like you said, you know, she's pretty dynamic and you want to listen to her. Brilliant. Yeah, she's given me lots of energy for the day. So I wish Nerissa the best. And obviously, like we said, if there's anything we can do to help her, I'm sure the travel retail industry will.